Hello, beautiful teachers, and welcome to another Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. It's so good to be back with you again. Give me hello in the comments. Let me know where you're joining from, where you're watching from, and what's going on with you, and maybe whether you do a studio newsletter in your studio and what that looks like for you. Some teachers do this every month. I do it once a year. So we're going to be looking at what we put in it and kind of the setup process in Canva in just a moment here. Before we get there though, a couple of little bits of news. So first of all, our Teacher Turbo Boost event is coming up in Cincinnati. That is happening, Cincinnati, Ohio, by the way, if you don't know where that is, which is happening on July 20th and 21st. That's over a weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And oh my gosh, it's shaping up so well. I'm so excited. Like even since I last talked to you last week, I've added new things to the plans, and it's actually just talking about it with a couple of other business owners that I meet up with regularly, and getting more ideas from them, and I'm so jazzed about it. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. So if you think you might be able to come, you can take a look at all the details in the description. There's a link there to the Teacher Turbo Boost in Cincinnati, which is a live in-person event in an incredible penthouse location. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. And hopefully it won't rain there. If you can hear that rain, by the way. I don't know if you can hear that, but it just started raining super violently just to prove that I am in fact in Ireland, like I say I am. Hello to Anna, is over in Madrid. And Serena is in London, cloudy London. It was sunny this morning. Now it's bucketing rain. Hello, Jana. Great to see you here. Sunny for you. I am jealous. And Washington State. Very nice. Lovely different parts of the world here. So, yeah, before we get to the whole Canva newsletter situation, which we're going to do in a moment here together, I wanted to quickly update you about our Vivid roadmap because I just announced this today. So this is our new Vivid Practice roadmap, and I just want to briefly talk you through some of the items we have that we're going to be adding to Vivid Practice in the coming months, because I know many people, I wrote this out in the group for all our Vivid Practice users, but maybe you're watching from the sidelines and you're not in the group, or maybe you just prefer to hear people talk about things instead of reading about them. So first up, next month, we will have our multiple file selection just to make it quicker and easier to add multiple attachments to an assignment. You can already add multiple attachments, but just in one click rather than in a couple. Then after that, we have one of the features I'm most excited about, which is a draft assignment section. So that is going to look like an extra section when you're looking at the student view in the website. You will be able to create draft assignments that are not yet live for the student, so that in the lesson you can quickly add them from there and you can prepare them ahead of time. So that I'm really excited about, and I know many members are as well. In June as well, same month, we're going to be implementing an audio slowdowner, as I call it, which just means on the student side, they will be able to, when they're listening to attached audio or watching attached videos, they'll be able to adjust the playback speed just like you can on YouTube or Vimeo. After that, over July-ish, we're going to be enabling the ability for you to put your assignments in a custom order so that you can set the order that you want students to view their assignments in. We'll also be bringing in the ability to add multiple items to the students list in one click. So checkboxes when you're viewing the library from the student view so that you can quickly add multiple things without editing them first. And then in August, we're planning to have our teacher message notifications so that you can get emails optional. There'll be a setting in your account that you get emails when your students message you, in case you want notifications of that. And then the most exciting thing for me of this whole roadmap, which we're planning to launch in August, all going well, is our assignment collections. So what that will mean is that I will be able to set up assignments, and Nicole as well, who works for Vivid Practice, will be able to set assignments up ahead of time with videos attached or audio attached or notes or different things depending on the circumstance that you can just import directly into your library with just like 2 clicks. So you'll be able to select individual ones or entire collections, folders of items that you can add. So that'll include things like scales and all the different permutations with the videos attached and the audio backing tracks attached and different pieces myself or Nicole may have recorded videos about or have specific notes. And then once you import them into your library, you can make them your own, but it's just going to save a huge amount of time. And I think it's going to be just invaluable. I think the opportunity there for us to add stuff to make your life easier is going to be amazing. So I'm really excited for that one. So that's what's coming up in Vivid Practice. I hope you're excited for those if you're using it or if you've been watching and considering Vivid Practice. Now is a great time of year, or in the coming months is a great time of year to think about your whole practice assignment situation, whether you want to bring in an app like Vivid Practice or a different system, because if you can implement that and take your time to test it and get used to it yourself over the summer, then you can make that announcement when your students come back in August or September and just say, we're now using this, here's how you log in, this is our new system, and do it with confidence. So I think this is a great time of year to consider that change if it's something you might be interested in. Okay, we're going to dive into the newsletter world. So I'm going to pull up Canva and we're going to do some newsletter designing ourselves, and I'll talk together, and I'll talk about the kinds of things I put in my newsletter. I'm not going to write because that's really boring to watch, but I'll kind of give you an idea of the different areas. And I'd really love to hear from you what you do. I know many people will only do an email newsletter like Rachel mentioned earlier. I know some people won't do a newsletter at all, and some will do them much more often. I like to do my newsletter every year, basically just after our spring concert, so that's end-ish of May, and just before, so it's between the concert and when I send out the new registration forms for the following year. So in my studio basically goes, and the timing of this may be different for you, but for me, our concert is like mid to end of May, so this year it's the 19th of May. About a week or so after that, I will send out the newsletter, which will include the lovely photo of everyone at the concert and then a sort of a summary of the year. And then about a week after that, I'll send out another email, which is, here's the new pricing and calendar and all that, and policy information attached in a PDF. And here's the link to register for next year. And to register, they need to pay their deposit, basically. It's not a deposit, they don't get it back. I never call it that. Their registration fee. So they pay their registration fee for the following year, and that goes towards the cost of their materials and also secures their spot. It's really important to me. It's one of the best changes I made, having a fee attached to that registration form, because it just makes people take the registration form seriously. That's honestly the reason. Yes, the money is great, and you need money to then buy supplies over the summer and etc. So it makes sense and is logical from that perspective. But honestly, I think there's a different feeling if you fill out a form and there's no fee attached. I think there's temptation to just be like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it or I won't do it, but I might as well fill out the form. And then they didn't actually mean they were fully committed. Whereas if they have to put money down, they're fully committed. So that's basically the timeline for me. But let's dive in to Canva and look at some newsletter designs. So I have just searched for the word newsletter in Canva. That's all the action I've taken so far. And yeah, you can do this in Canva. You could do it elsewhere. I don't actually always use Canva for this. I often use InDesign. But Canva is free for the most part, or it depends on the features you want to use, but you can use the free version to do a lot of this. And for people who don't have a design background, I do think it's a really great option. So let's choose a template to start from. I think it would be fun if you all voted on the one that you think might work. I'm looking out for certain things, but let's have a look together. So we got this blue one with the picture. I look at the format. To me, that's a no right away because there's not multiple pages. And I think a lot of the work that Canva can do for you is in the layout. That if there's already multiple pages of layout, now if you only want one page, that's fine. But see, that says 1 of 2. So there's 2 different layouts there. And that makes it easier. My newsletter is 4 pages in general. So if I can get one that has enough pages, if not, I will tweak what I have. But see, this one is 2 of 4. So I think that's a good candidate for me. It's nice and simple as well, which I like. That's just 1 page. That's 2 pages. So obviously you can use any one you like. But I think the temptation is maybe to just look at the ones with like schools or music or something. And you really don't need it to be on theme at all. It's going to change a lot as you work through it. Right? So I think like most of these would be absolutely fine. Even this one, you see, it's got this like really businessy looking stuff here. So you might be tempted to think, oh, that's not right for me. But that's just the photo. That's nothing to do with anything. Once you change the colors, that could look very kid friendly or parent friendly. Okay, there are loads of options. I'm going to go with that simple one that we saw up here. This one. Okay, so this will be our starting point. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thought I'd click print there for a second. Funny the things you do when you're live. Okay, I am not going to put my signature. That's not really my style. So here it has in this newsletter you can expect. I'm just going to show you the way I kind of change these layouts as I go. I don't like this for 4 pages. I think that's silly. Just my personal perspective. But to me, you don't need to tell me what I'm going to expect across the course of 4 pages. I don't need a table of contents. So I'm going to put something else there. I do normally start with some kind of a, like, oh, what a great year or something. Find a new way to say that there. And then I do start with a bit of a letter, which is a bit of a summary of the whole thing. So I will leave this here, and that's what I would fill into that spot. In here is probably where I'll put that spring recital photo once we have it. And obviously it's not a monthly newsletter. So I will just put the studio and the year or something simple like that. Or like piano newsletter, some title like that up there. And then possibly the logo over there. And then I will put the date. Let's just guess it's going to be 30 of May. I'll change that to whatever it actually is at the time when I first put it out. By the way, I do print my newsletter. So yeah, when I'm printing it, I actually change the formatting a little bit. So I put the pages together so that it's an A3, as we would call it, double a letter size page almost, sheet that's folded kind of like a card, right? So it's folded in half. So I will put the front page and the back page side by side, and then the 2 inner pages side by side so that it prints double-sided, and then we can just fold it down the middle. I get them printed at a local office supply shop because it's pretty cheap and the printing quality is really nice. They just have a big sort of office style laser color printer. Prints quite nice quality on nice paper, and yeah, it's very affordable. So yeah, that's page 1, and probably what I'll fill in here is some more photos. So let's just put in some placeholders for photos here so that we kind of have a plan in place. So I really like to, normally I put it together actually more in advance than we are doing here, but I like to make my newsletter started off at some point quite far in advance of when I'll actually be putting it out. Just going to remove this while I'm at it because that's just going to be a photo of the kids. And it's most likely going to be coming down to there. So probably going to be something like that. And just scale these down. So yeah, I like to have it all kind of set up and then start filling things in over time. I have done it before where I have to do all of it at the end, and I find that personally, look at that year, sorry. I find that personally really overwhelming and unpleasant, and it's a task that I have to like force myself to do, and I don't want to feel like that about writing a newsletter because then I feel it comes across in my tone of the actual newsletter. So to me, it's better done in small chunks. Okay, now I'm going to see which one of these I prefer. I like this for the last page, although I'm going to change this, and like I like a lot of it to be photos. I don't want to say too much because I don't expect parents to really read all of it. Okay. The last page for me is exciting news for next year. This isn't the actual title, but that's basically what I put on the last page in some format or another. So last year and this year probably going to be the same, honestly, because last year for the first time we did our silent film festival, and next year we're going to be bringing it back because parents really wanted us to do it. So I will be mentioning that there. I might have a couple of other items, but basically the last page looks forward to next year. I'm pretty simple in how I put this thing together. Okay, and then in the middle pages, let's actually just look at it in this view for a sec. In the middle pages, I'm going to pick one of these that I'm going to keep that layout, and then the other one is going to be our student features. So I think I prefer this layout. So we can have 3 other elements from the year. Is that enough? Let's think about that. So if we have our cozy concert, yeah, it's not going to be enough. Okay, so we're going to keep this one. So I always have a section called something like lifelong learning, and that lists some of the things I've done and the other teachers have done this year to continue our own learning. So I talk about conferences I've been to and what I learned and any things like that. Then I have features about different things that happened this year. So cozy concert, composing project, that kind of thing. So special things that we've done. That's what our composing project is called this year. Right, so I'll kind of fill those in with things we did this year. So in which case I'm going to swap these back. Because although I prefer that format, it's not quite enough space, I don't think. So this is the one where I'm going to pretty much delete everything on the page. We'll take a look at that. And you can let me know in the chat what you put in your newsletter, because mine isn't the only way to do it. And I think it's useful to learn from others. So this is going to be 2 columns. And we want the text to be like that. So let's just copy that. And here's what we're going to do with it. I'm just going to copy paste this for now. So we're going to do name did this amazing thing this year. So I write these, a sentence or 2, very brief, about every student in the studio. So it'll say like, Alice finished her first ever piano book, or Stephen performed at Carnegie Hall, whatever happened, right? So I like to put the name in bold, very simple, and then what they did. And just so that I have the formatting set up. I don't know why it's not making those bold, but anyway, whoops. And then I will go through when I'm not on a live YouTube video and fill in all the students' names, because I never show them on screen here. But yeah, I'll do that. And I know just from experience that basically it takes me 2 columns to do this. So to fit everyone in. So I'm just going to expand that to roughly there. And it will take me more than that many words to fill it in. And that'll be good spacing. So yeah, I go through one time when I'm feeling a bit mindless and maybe a bit tired. And I fill out all those names, like Alice, S, and then Bethany, B, and then whatever. So I just do student name as first, last, to highlight one cool thing they did this year. And I can always come up with one positive thing, even if they had a really bad year for whatever reason. Something good happened. So I just give one positive about each student. And I think, okay, some students don't care. And that's fine by me. But for some, seeing their name in print and a little acknowledgement of something they worked hard at or that went well for them or whatever, some fun thing they did, is a special moment. And even more than that, it gives parents an opportunity to say, oh my gosh, aren't you amazing? Which is what we want, right? Parents sometimes need those extra moments where they can just be really proud of their kid and tell their kid how proud they are that they did this thing. So yeah, that's a tradition I have for my newsletter. It's very simple. It takes the longest. I will warn you, it is not easy to do if you have, like we do, 70 students. That's why I need 2 columns. When I had only 30 students, I wrote a little bit more about each one. But I think filling one page is nice with that. And I always put it on the second page so that if you imagine, this is not a newsletter because it's big, okay? But if you imagine, it's the inside cover. So if you just imagine that's a newsletter, that's where that goes. So I have cover page, which is what an amazing year. Oh, look at all this incredible stuff we've done, sort of summary and maybe some things I learned or fun things, bit of an introduction. Then inside cover, we have all the students and some fun thing they did this year. Then we have a page that kind of summarizes the year and some of the special events, things parents might not remember because they happened at the start of the year. And then the last page, I normally talk about next year. And that is my super simple format. So once we put all this together, that is what it will look like for me. Sorry. First page, hey, this is what our awesome studio did. Second page, this is what each individual student did, in summary. Third page, here are the events we did, events and projects. And then fourth page, next year is going to be even more amazing, and here's why. That's my formula. It's pretty simple. It does take time to put together though. And there's a reason I do this once a year. I think it has more impact. I think there's nothing wrong, by the way, with doing a weekly or a monthly newsletter. To me, this is just what I've landed on because I feel like it gets parents' attention. I don't think I would print one every month. I think that would be just too much in terms of cost and everything and paper wastage. And emailing, it's easily ignored. And the more frequent the thing is, the more parents might just gloss over it. But I think doing it once a year, big summary of the year, they get a printed one, which we hand to students. Here's the deal. We hand it to students as they leave their lesson. This gives it the maximum chance of making it into a parent's hand instead of into their piano bag. We don't want it to end up in the piano bag because it will never come out. And you will still have some whose newsletter ends up in the piano bag and you will find it next year. And if you're like me, you will sigh a little internally, but then just quietly take it out of the piano bag and put it in the recycling because there's just no point of it sitting in the piano bag. It's not even for the student, right? It is for the parent. But I have enough parents in my studio who really read it and will bring things up from it. Will say, oh, I didn't realize you were in Atlanta or wherever I was that year, or I'll talk about where I'm going next year. So they might say, oh, I've been to Melbourne, because I do a bit of travel. But it doesn't have to be that comes up. They will mention little tidbits so that I know that a few of them at least read it in the physical form and read the whole thing. Some of them will just glance over it, and some of them won't read it at all. And that's just the reality of the world we live in. That's okay with me. It's still worth it to me to put it out there. So I hope that gives you an idea of what I do with the newsletter and what mine looks like and how you can kind of put these things together in Canva pretty simply at this stage. I mean, you just upload your own photos and you would drop them into those spots. I wasn't going into my upload section because that's my real Canva account and I'm not sure what'll show up in terms of it could be student faces or something. So I don't want to show that on screen here, but yeah, it's pretty simple. You just then drag and drop them in. So if you've never used Canva, it really has changed the world of design. Now, if you are really into design, Canva still has its limitations. And personally, to me, it can be quite frustrating because there's an easier way to do something in Adobe software, but it's much more democratic than Adobe, and I love it for that. Yes, I did already say Rose, so I'll just clarify that for anyone else who missed it. I do my concert, my end of year sort of concert, it's not the end of the year. Our spring recital happens mid-May-ish, and then I send this out roughly a week after that, so towards the end of May. And then a week after that, I send out the new registration forms for the following year. And by the way, I didn't say before, those are due, so we finish at almost the end of June. It's the end of our school year here. And then the registration forms are due back by mid-July. That's the final date for those, and they get lots of reminders about them, of course. And then if there's someone who I really expected them to sign up for the following year and they haven't sent it back, I will then, after the expiration date, text them and say, hey, I saw we haven't seen your registration form. Did you have a tech issue, etc., and see what's going on. Because it's unusual for someone to quiet quit piano, especially if they've been pretty engaged before that. So I do follow up after that. Yeah, look, concerts and newsletters and stuff, they don't have to be an enormous amount of work, Rose. They can be simple. And the newsletter doesn't need to be 4 pages, if you have 10 students. It could be 1 page. I'd say, I think the newsletter is nice. If you're thinking about one thing to bring in out of those, I'd go for the concert over the newsletter. And I think that can be quite simple. If you only have a few students, you can do it in your living room. You can do it in a student's living room. You can do it in some small space that you have. You can even do it in groups of 3 or 4 students if you don't have the space. But it is a nice thing to do, and I do encourage you to consider it because I took lessons from 2 independent teachers. They weren't part-time. Well, the first one was not part-time. She, I believe, was full-time, to the best of my 7-year-old's memory. My own memory from when I was 7. My second one was definitely part-time. She was in college when I had her. But that took me up to the age of 14, I think. And then I transferred at that point to a bigger school, which still exists. It's very close to me here. And it was only at that point, age 15 or something, that I was expected to perform. And I do think that has contributed to how much performance anxiety I always had, because starting performing for the first time as a very introverted 15-year-old is a tough ask. And I see it in my own students who start performing for others at a much younger age, that it is easier. It doesn't mean none of them will ever have any performance anxiety, but it is easier. And I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to do, to get up in front of others and maybe get a bit nervous, but also be excited to share music with them and play and enjoy it, right? I think that's a wonderful thing to pass on. So performance isn't everything, but I do think it's a lovely thing to include in your studio. Yeah, look, I can't say I'm in a different camp, Rose. But I know from having my own students that some of them genuinely love it, and I want to give that opportunity to them without it being the be all and end all of piano, because I don't believe that it has to be. I believe that if they go through that and they decide, I really don't want to play for anyone, I just want to play for myself in my room, that's fine. If they decide, I don't really want to bring pieces to performance standard at all, I actually just want to improvise or compose, that's also fine. But I want to give them all those different experiences. Okay, I hope that gave you all some food for thought when it comes to newsletters. Next week, we'll be talking about students quitting and how we deal with the emotions and the logistics and all of that stuff to do with when students leave our studio, depending on how they leave our studio. And I hope you'll check out the Teacher Turbo Boost, which is happening in Cincinnati. The link is in the description below or to the side, depending on what device you're watching this on. If you can at all make it to Ohio, I would love to see you there. It's going to be so much fun. So many fun surprises planned. And I hope you have a fabulous week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.